yeah, I think the 50s definitely plays a role in my writing, especially in recent years. It's a good question. As far as the 50s go, I mean, as a child of the 70s is basically when I spent my formative years growing up, elementary school years and such, and I got a lot of exposure to the Elvis in particular with my particularly my father, but my mom also being a fan. So there was always Elvis records and 8-track tapes and what have you laying about the house, as was there a lot of Tom Jones records and Johnny Mathis, Engelbert Humperdinck, all these people that kind of came about over those decades. Elvis starting there in the 50s, stretching in through the 70s, and those contemporaries happening alongside there. So yeah, I always had kind of this affinity for the rock and roll rebel type thing. I guess that was kind of something that was always in me, though maybe not so much as an outward expression. I stumbled across a track that I wrote, actually, kind of wrote it kind of on a whim, I guess, kind of coming out of left field, and this was very soon after the original breakup of House of the Forest. So Valentine left the band first, and then Phaedra left, and that kind of left me, holding the bag. And I really wanted to continue on with House of the Forest. I was having a very prolific writing streak with that band, and I was really enjoying the imagery, which was more based in the 60s psychedelia at that time. I liked it so much that I actually grabbed the help of my two nieces to fill in on the vocals, because I was still writing songs for the band. And it came about that I wrote a short punkabilly song called Devil Driver. And basically the premise of this song was we were taking kind of like a 50s anti-hero, sort of like a James Dean meets Elvis, meets Johnny Cash, meets all of these kind of stereotypical characteristics of a 50s hero, but kind of the bad boy 50s hero, the rebellious type guy. And the whole premise of the song was to have this pompous greaser singing the main fold of the song, and in the chorus there would be the women who loved him singing about him, of how much they thought he was the macho man or whatever of the driving around in his hot rod, and just kind of painting this whole image of a kind of a male fantasy type thing going on. So the Devil Driver became this almost cartoonish like character in this short punk song, which was written for the post House of the Forest lineup. Now again, getting young people to focus and work on music has been a real bane of mine, and it wasn't long before my nieces departed, because again, trying to get the attention of youngsters to work on a focused project of an older guy, it's kind of their interests just aren't there. So kind of put the Devil Driver on the shelf, and just kind of sat there for the longest time as I wrote other music in hopes of finding a new singer. Now, it so happened that there was a guy at work who we had some things in common, the love of Elvis and Johnny Cash and boxing and all kinds of manly type of things. And to be honest, I was not the original guy slated to play the character of the Devil Driver. Now I had this guy, I was going to be the guy doing the music, and this guy was a singer, and he was going to be the original Devil Driver character for this song. And then we were going to look for female vocals to fill in on the chorus parts. So he did come down, he put some vocals down for the Devil Driver. However, again, trying to get young people to focus on music, not something that I've had much success with. So that wasn't too much longer before he lost focus in the project and kind of disappeared without completing the vocals. And once again, the Devil Driver got put on the shelf, and it wasn't till the advent of Omen contacting me to say, look, you know, start writing more music, let's work together, let's get something together, because I had been semi-retired at this point. You know, I'd write a song here and there, and didn't get too much done between the time House of the Forest broke up and by the time I actually would end up being my solo record. So Omen kind of inspired me to you know, get some stuff together. We decided to try to reunite Savior Sect, and I brought the Devil Driver out of retirement as one of the tracks that was proposed to be on the new Savior Sect record. Anastasia at the time was really into punk and hardcore type music, and her taste had changed since the 90s when we were doing gothic music. So I was kind of writing traditional Savior Sect kind of creepy slow music, but then I would also try to appease her by throwing in some fast pieces because she was into that type of thing, and I wanted to kind of gel and hold everyone's attention and make everyone be interested in the reunion project. You know, I wanted it to be something we could all relate to. So I thought the Devil Driver would be a really good song for that. So what I did was I went and what I would do was when I would record the new music for the Savior Sect reunion, I would demo all the vocals, send her the lyrics and the complete songs with my demoed vocals on so that she could learn the melodies, and just come down and put her touch to it and sing the songs. You know, however, that was not to be. Again, losing focus, the band there, everyone kind of went their own ways, and I ended up with enough material, or more than enough material actually, to put together a solo record. So all of the demoed vocal tracks I did kind of just remained, and it became my solo record, the Devil Driver track included in that. So by default, I actually took on the character of the Devil Driver for the song, and for all intents and purposes, the remainder of songs dealing with the character, which would be a growing thing. I think steadily with the advent of writing about the character, which would again haunt the Seance records, which followed the solo project. So Omen and I just decided to, you know, reunite our '89 project of Seance, and we just kind of decided to write new music with that, without anyone else. I just handled the vocals and lyrics, and he did all the music, just like we did back in the late '80s. And that way it cut anyone out that, you know, wasn't interested or not focused, and the two of us could actually sit down and get something done. And I found that working on Seance, because Seance was a very personal type of project for me lyrically, I kind of found myself, you know, looking at my own life and the situations I was going through. And I think I found that I had a lot in common with the character that I created in the Devil Driver for the solo record. You know, after the solo record, I didn't think much of it. But I did bring the character back in Seance and kind of played a pretty important part in albums like Where the Gigolos Roam and with the character even being on the album cover. So it was kind of building the story within me, and with that advent of creating this character, which I almost started modeling off my own experiences and my own loves or my own visions of what the 50s were, though I never lived there. I'd sit down and talk to my dad about it, this or that, trying to pick up information or insight from people who were actually there at the times when I was writing these songs, but I think at the end of the day, it came down to me watching a lot of movies, so a lot of Hollywood figured into this, and a lot of I started picking up on a lot of old rockabilly songs, both famous and underground stuff, and just getting a general feel of what the sounds were and what the jargon was, or what the prevailing attitudes were, or themes of the songs. Again, the music itself while I love rockabilly music, it's I can't say my own sound is very reflective of the 50s. It's more taking the thematic approach to things, and I think a lot of it actually with the help of all of those sources, and my own imagination put into it, I think, is my own visions that I draw from basically nowhere other than just pure imagination, I think have really helped define where I'm going, both with the character, the Devil Driver, or other stories that are written with 50s themes to them. And again, it's an ongoing thing, taking it from Seance and back to a few solo tracks, and then on to 13 Serpentine Drive, and the whole 50s concept has kind of moved along with my own progression. Again, stemming back to 2010 with the advent of a House of the Forest track that would see life later in a much different perspective than I had initially envisioned for it. Still to this day kind of feel the song is unfinished because it was never done to the original vision that I had of it. But it is as it stands, and from there, came Alleys of the Dead, At the Crossroads, countless other songs there. Wheels of Thunder, Requiem for the Devil Driver. So I'm thinking, even with the onset of 13 Serpentine Drive, continuing on with our storytelling, the new track I'm writing right now, again taking place in the 50s, really feeling comfortable with this. Hot rods, muscle cars, pomade, slicked hair, sunglasses and leather jackets. Something very interesting, going back to the whole, drugstore, rock and roll, soda fountain, soda jerks, it's just kind of interesting to me to try to revisit something that was a time of such rebellion and a time for the discovery of rock and roll music, and things just would never be the same, and here I'm playing music now, and all because of what happened back in the 50s. So always in my heart, the 50s. So good question.